Welcome to City Issues, a series of discussions with Mayor Michael O'Connor and key city staff and appointees designed to provide useful information on a variety of city topics and answer some common questions. I'm Patti Mullins, and this is City Issues. All right, so Jim, Kelly, thank you for being here today.
Pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
So thank you. I appreciate you taking some time to come in here and talk a little bit about the Strategic Opportunities Advisory Team. Kelly, Jim, you two are the co-chairs of the steering committee. Explain for the people who are watching a little bit about the formation of the team, the steering committee, and the work groups.
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for having us here to talk about this. We appreciate it. So this group really is for us to help you explore where we are in the city currently. And obviously you have 8 years of experience in the city, but now your perspective is that of the mayor. So we, as the steering committee, are trying to assist in helping you explore some different areas that are of interest to you that you've expressed, and see how we can better engage our community, how we can improve efficiencies, those kinds of things. So the steering committee is Elizabeth Cromwell, Ted Luck, Ted Gregory, and then Jim and I are the co-chairs. And we oversee, each of us, a specific work group that's going to be looking at areas.
Looking at different areas, and those areas sort of cover the spectrum of communication to economics to opportunities for technology.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to, I think one of the things that was interesting about this opportunity when we originally got together and discussed it is that, you know, normally when we have a change in administrations, there's sort of this functional and operational transition activity that goes on. And given the breadth and the depth of experience that you had serving 8 years as an alderman, the idea came forward to really use this time period to identify maybe some opportunities, some things on a more strategic nature that as the administration goes forward could fold into strategic planning and setting some priorities. So it's exciting and positive from that standpoint because we're really looking at hopefully big picture issues that we can do to make some significant impact and improvement in the lives of the people that live and work here in the city.
What's become apparent in the first few months anyway is that there is a level of professionalism in the day-to-day operation. So the biggest concern when anybody might walk into a new organization is how does the senior staff respond to that, and everyone knows what their job is. So in terms of the functional operations of the city, there was never really a doubt that that wasn't going to continue. But as you've pointed out, this longer range, this more strategic, where are the opportunities for the city to perhaps look at doing things in a different way with a more focused, broader vision about where we're trying to go as a community is an important component of this. And the community's involvement is critical to that conversation.
Absolutely. You raise a great point. We have amazing folks that work for the city. They are professionals that have chosen to use their talents in local government as opposed to in private sector. So what we're trying to do with that is make sure that they have the resources that they need to be the best they can be for performing, you know, their duties and their responsibilities for the city of Frederick. I think the point that we're not really transitioning, that we're just sort of looking for maybe like the bigger picture. Where do we want to see the city in 10 years, 20 years? What's that larger vision, and how can we incorporate the activities that are going on not only in the city but in the city government, but in the city and in our community, and how can we use those talents to sort of lift the city and take us into that next level.
And the role that the community plays is important because it's an outside perspective, so to speak. It's perhaps fresh eyes looking at the kinds of things that our city staff perhaps has been looking at for years.
Well, and a couple things that have been interesting about this effort compared to maybe some other transition efforts that I've been a part of in the past. One is really the enthusiasm and immediate engagement of the staff. So immediately when we started talking about this idea, we saw the staff being very proactive and very engaged with coming forward with initiatives and ideas and ways that they could engage and be a part of this effort. The other thing that has also been interesting has been the interest of the public. You know, most of our meetings, at any of the meetings that I've attended, we've had public folks attend and give input. And I think you're exactly right, is that even the staff in the city or ourselves, we have particular sets of experiences and perspectives that we've been looking at from, but there's thousands of other people in the city who have different experiences and perspectives and ideas, and the more that we can bring them in to contribute to what we shape as priorities and opportunities for the city, I think all the better. So that's been a very pleasant and welcome surprise, I'd say.
Absolutely. And so there are 5 work groups looking at 21st century technology, expanding opportunities, financial resiliency, operations and organization, and civic engagement. So each one of those work groups is comprised of more volunteers from the city of Frederick, and some not in the city, but they have specific talents that we want to tap into. So it's an entirely volunteer effort. All of the meetings are open to the public. We just publish agendas. We take minutes. You can see on the city's website when the meetings are taking place. Some of them are on like an every other week basis. Some have been monthly. But there's going to be a continuing, ongoing effort, and we encourage people to come and share what they're seeing and what they're hearing, and how do they think that we can engage them.
And you've talked about the fact that they're all volunteers. We want to make it clear too, it's not city staff volunteering to be on the committee.
Correct.
It's just
members of the community.
Members of the community.
But there has been a concerted effort to make sure that every city department in some respect gets connected.
Yeah, I think that's a great
to a work
term to
group
use.
in a way.
Mm-hmm. And I would say probably most specifically the work group, the operations and organization, our plan is to speak with all of the directors about what's great in their departments, what would they like to see happen, what are their aspirations, and then how can we help, again, sort of have some results in reaching those higher aspirations, and all of this is helping to shape a framework for a larger strategic plan moving forward.
So it starts in the city in some respects. The city has to have a clear sense, city government proper, a clear sense of who it is, where it can go, where the opportunities to do things are, and what the obstacles really are to those things happening. Sometimes those are organizational in nature, sometimes it's staffing related, sometimes it's budgetary. But until you have a really good conversation, it's hard to know why the things that you might want to do may not be possible when you want to do them.
Right, that's exactly right, is that there are organizational realities that will eventually have to roll into that thinking. Financial, right, is always an issue. We all know that we have limited resources as a community. And so, but I think at this stage where we're really trying to identify the opportunities and the challenges and things of that nature, if we have a better handle on that list, it's going to be easier to set priorities and look at how you're going to allocate strategic resources in order to address those things, rather than down the road having somebody say, oh, I wish I would have thought of that. So
one of the really interesting things about this to me was the steering committee's desire at the very beginning to fix a time frame on the work that they did. I think all of us have perhaps at one time or another been involved in something that sort of took on a life of its own and just kept going and never really had a sense of completion to it. This notion of a firm stop date with a report that also details the things that time frame would not allow the committees or the work groups to discuss, I think, is a really important component of the work that you and the work groups are trying to put together.
Right. Yeah. We've set June 30th of this year as a completion date. There will be a report from all of the committees. And as you mentioned, one of the important things is we want to report on the things that we were able to accomplish and make recommendations with those. But there may be things that we hear about that we don't either have time or resources to delve into, and we want to make sure that those points don't get lost, that those are incorporated into the report. So as time does go on and we have opportunities to address them, then we can do that.
The other piece is not necessarily waiting until June 30th. There are things that we believe have some urgency to them.
Correct. I think that's one thing we've talked at the steering committee about multiple times. I think you've really emphasized that point, right? If we see something that either is low-hanging fruit or something that needs pressing and immediate attention, you've encouraged folks in the work groups and the steering committee to elevate that immediately. So it's not waiting until June 30 to necessarily have something where maybe we could work on it here in the next few weeks.
What will happen with the recommendations that your work groups bring forward? Is that something the alderman will vote on, or how do we see that moving forward?
The way I envisioned it was just having those recommendations and having a discussion with the mayor about what's in there. At some point, probably midway through this process, we're going to bring all of the work groups together in one room. They will have been meeting independently, but we're going to have sort of a meeting of the minds to see sort of where we are. It's kind of fluid in that again, there may be things that by the time we get together we've already addressed, other things that are going to take some time.
There have been a number of opportunities over the first couple of months on the job to talk about not knowing the things that you don't know, and I think that's somewhat what this process is about. There are certainly going to be things that may be very easy to check a box on operationally. There are others that may require a more in-depth conversation about what the policy change or direction might need to be on that. Other things that have a significant budget impact. We're in the middle of the budget process right now, and the ability to influence that through this process represents some challenges. So the June 30th deadline is interesting as well, because it affords an opportunity with a full year ahead of us for the next fiscal year to perhaps begin to look at any of those budget considerations. So it really is a long-term. There really is a long-term approach to this. We're trying not to, at least it's not been my goal, to set some truly artificial deadline in terms of the things that we need to do. Our approach is how do we begin to make progress on the things that we know we want to accomplish as a community.
Well, one of the things I think that not only since taking office, but previously, and I would say this as a citizen, in my observation with the both of you, is that there's an appreciation of the importance of strategic planning and having a strategic view of how you set priorities and how you apportion resources. And so this is an early opportunity to identify some strategic opportunities, and as you fully admit, might also be some strategic challenges, but that can help inform ongoing strategic management of what you have going on in the city. And from that standpoint, I think that it's going to be very valuable information for you to have at your fingertips.
What's the best way for the public to keep up on where everything stands?
On the city's website, which is cityoffrederick.com, on the very front page, there is a link for the Mayor's Strategic Opportunities Advisory Team. You can click on that. It will show you the membership of the teams, the agendas, schedules, all the minutes. You can sort of see everything that's been going on and get information that way.
And there's certainly an opportunity. People should not feel shy about sending an email. Alderman Russell and my emails are readily available. Your email is readily available. Jim's probably not on the city's website, but I would say that the public that wants to weigh in certainly use the technology that's available as we try and figure out ways to better leverage what we've got to get the community engaged.
Right, and as you mentioned earlier too, all these meetings are open to the public. We've had good public attendance already. Certainly in some of the work groups, they've talked about leveraging either technology, scheduling meetings at different times to make them more accessible or available to people who might have different work schedules. So certainly people can participate in person. the experience so far has been positive and very interactive, and I think comfortable for folks to show up. So I think anybody who wants to attend and give some input or hear what's going on is not only welcome but encouraged to do so.
Absolutely.
I'm very appreciative of the personal commitment that you've made to this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.